Owning a PS5 means you have a whole world of amazing single-player adventures waiting for you. These are the games I spent hours on and enjoyed from start to finish. No hype and no pressure, just honest picks based on my own time with them. Let's jump in. From the very beginning, the revenge story in Ghost of Yotei had me engaged. Playing as Atsu, chasing down the Yotei 6 felt personal, and every step through Izo's stunning landscapes made the journey hit even harder. One moment, I was fighting across frozen mountains, and the next, I was walking through bright, colorful fields that looked straight out of a painting. The combat was the real highlight for me. Switching between katanas, spears, and a chained sickle felt smooth and powerful, and adding pistols, smoke bombs, or fire attacks made every fight exciting. It's not trying to reinvent open worlds, it's all about delivering pure samurai vengeance with style, and it absolutely nails that feeling. Baldur's Gate 3 feels like entering a massive fantasy tabletop world, where every choice directly changes what comes next. Situations can be handled in many ways, sneaking past danger, climbing around enemies, casting clever spells, or avoiding combat when possible. The turn-based battles feel rewarding because you can stop, think, and use the surroundings to your advantage. The character creator pulls you in right away with tons of choices to build the hero you imagine, but the companions stand out the most. They respond to your actions, carry their own histories, and make the world feel full and reactive. No matter where you go, there are hidden areas, quests, and consequences waiting. It's the kind of game where the journey truly feels personal, shaped entirely by how you play.
Before me. Bow before the absolute. Bow!
Ninja Gaiden 4 reminds me why fast, skill-based action games are so satisfying. The story didn't grab me, and the new hero Yakumo feels a bit flat, but the combat easily carries the experience. Every fight is intense, enemies rush in fast, punish you for slipping up, and keep you alert the whole time. Yakumo's Bloodraven form adds a great twist, letting you break defenses, counter heavy hits, and unleash some flashy attacks. What stood out most is how free and flexible the combat feels. Switching weapons mid-combo, learning advanced techniques, and grinding through challenge rooms kept the action exciting for hours. The level design is simple, and a few bosses don't land well, but the moment-to-moment combat is so strong that it barely matters. For pure action, this is the most fun I've had in years. Sword of the Sea instantly attracted me with its beautiful and peaceful gameplay. Riding a massive sword like a surfboard across deserts and abandoned cities is incredibly smooth, and the controls make every glide feel satisfying. The movement mixes fast surfing with gentle platforming, and pulling off mid-air tricks adds a nice bit of style. Exploring the world and solving simple puzzles kept me engaged. The orchestral soundtrack and subtle haptic feedback make everything even more immersive. It's a short adventure, but I kept wanting to replay it just to experience the movement and the scenery again. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth turned Cloud's journey into a massive, cinematic adventure. I loved exploring wide-open regions packed with secrets, side quests, and emotional moments that expanded the story far beyond Midgar. The real-time combat felt smooth and explosive, and switching between characters kept every battle fast and strategic. With its stunning visuals, strong performances, and a soundtrack filled with nostalgia, Rebirth reminded me why this saga is one of the greatest experiences I've had on PS5. Borderlands 4 felt like jumping into a loud, chaotic playground, and I loved every second of it. The open world was fun to move through, especially with grappling, gliding, and double jumping making everything faster and smoother. The guns were wonderfully weird and creative, and the enemy variety and boss fights kept me hooked. Building my character felt rewarding and pushed me to experiment with different playstyles. And when I played with friends, chasing better loot turned the whole game into a wild, addictive loop I kept returning to. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is one of the most visually stunning and heartfelt RPGs I've played. The world of Lumiere feels warm and alive, and the story hit me hard as I led the 33rd expedition to stop the Paintress, a being who can erase anyone with a single brushstroke. What impressed me the most was the combat. It blends turn-based planning with real-time parries, dodges, and elemental attacks, and every action feels important. The hand-painted art style and emotional music give the whole game a beautiful, artistic feel. It's one of the most unique RPGs I've experienced in years, and it left a strong impact on me.
Who are you?
Final Fantasy XVI took me on an epic and emotional journey through the dark, war-torn realm of Valisthea. Following Clive, Rosfield felt powerful from the start, and watching him grow from someone driven by vengeance into a true hero kept me invested the whole way. Using the different icon abilities in fast, cinematic combat felt incredible. Every fight looked huge, hit hard, and blended action with spectacle perfectly. What stood out most to me was how much weight every moment carried. The visuals are stunning, the characters stuck with me, and the soundtrack hits every emotion exactly when it should. By the end, it became one of the most dramatic and heartfelt Final Fantasy experiences I've played. The moment my first hunt began, I could tell Monster Hunter Wilds was on a whole new level of excitement. The open areas are massive. Deserts, forests, mountains, and exploring them without loading screens makes the world feel moving. Focus mode quickly became one of my favorite new features, letting me lock onto weak spots and plan my attacks instead of just swinging wildly. Every weapon feels great to use, and having partners and mounts keeps the action fast, even during huge fights. The shifting weather and dramatic landscapes make every hunt feel fresh. It's easily the most fun I've had in a Monster Hunter game so far. With Dynasty Warriors Origins, it finally felt like the series had woken up again. The battles are massive, bigger than anything I'd seen before, and cutting through entire armies never stopped feeling satisfying. The combat feels deeper too, with so many weapon types, special moves, and skills that actually change how I fight. What surprised me the most was the story. Following a new hero and seeing the early days of the Three Kingdoms from a different angle made the world feel fresh again. I loved building bonds with the characters, replaying missions to see different results, and unlocking the true endings. With its beautiful maps, tough battles, and huge replay value, Origins reminded me exactly why I fell in love with this series in the first place. The part of Blades of Fire that grabbed me the most was its weapon crafting system. Working with the legendary hammer felt genuinely engaging, and creating my own weapons became the highlight of the entire game. I enjoyed unlocking blueprints by defeating new enemy types and then customizing each weapon's shape, weight, and balance. Once I understood how to control each strike in the forge, crafting felt even more rewarding. I also liked how many weapon styles the game offered, pushing me to try different approaches in combat. Finding rare materials and improving my favorite weapons made progression feel meaningful. The bigger boss fights were impressive too, giving me great moments to put my crafted gear to the test. Assassin's Creed Shadows instantly pulled me into a feudal Japan that felt incredibly real and full of detail. Exploring massive castles, peaceful villages, and landscapes that shifted with the seasons made every area feel alive. Switching between Naui and Yasuke kept everything exciting, sneaking across rooftops, as Naui felt completely different from charging into battles as Yasuke with his powerful samurai weapons. I loved having the freedom to tackle missions however I wanted. Some runs were pure stealth, others turned into full-on fights, and both approaches felt satisfying. The combat relied on timing, with dodges and parries that actually mattered. And even the weather changed how encounters played out. By the end, the blend of stealth, action, and exploration made this version of Japan a place I wasn't ready to leave.
Vengeance.
I have a debt to settle.
Bound by blood.
We will be unstoppable.
Playing Eriksholm, The Stolen Dream felt like stepping into a beautifully crafted puzzle box. The top-down world looks incredible, with painterly visuals, soft lighting, and a Nordic-inspired city that feels alive. I loved switching between Hannah, Alva, and Sebastian. Each one brings a unique ability, and figuring out how their skills fit together made every stealth puzzle feel smart and satisfying. Planning ahead, syncing their moves, and watching a plan unfold became the best part of the game for me. The only downside is how long it takes before all three characters finally come together, because that's when the game truly shines. Even so, the story is heartfelt, the cinematics look amazing, and the final chapters deliver some brilliant puzzles. By the end, I just wanted more time in this world. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 felt intense and personal from the moment I started playing. Taking on the role of Senua, a Viking warrior battling psychosis, made every fight and every step through those harsh Nordic landscapes feel heavy and meaningful. The combat hit hard for me. Every sword swing, dodge, and clash felt powerful and grounded. The environmental puzzles, like lining up symbols or finding hidden paths, added just enough challenge to keep the journey engaging without slowing it down. What impressed me most were the visuals and sound. The lifelike faces, the cinematic lighting, and the haunting voices made the world feel incredibly real. It's a short game, but it left a strong impact on me. Stranding 2 had me on edge from the very beginning. Traveling through this wild, twisted version of Australia as Sam felt completely unpredictable. I'd be walking calmly one minute, then suddenly pushing through a violent sandstorm or trying to stay upright during an earthquake. The BTs are still terrifying, and they appear at the worst possible moments. The gameplay feels much smoother this time. Deliveries move faster, the combat is more refined, and the new tools from stealth abilities to upgraded vehicles to that blood boomerang make every encounter feel more dynamic. The visuals look incredible, the story hits harder than I expected, and Kojima's signature strangeness is everywhere. By the time I finished, it was one of those games that stayed in my head long after I set the controller down. Playing the first Berserker Khazan immediately showed me how tough and unforgiving it was going to be, and I ended up enjoying the challenge more than I expected. The combat is tight, demanding, and built around precise dodges and counters, and once I learned its rhythm, every fight felt genuinely rewarding. The bosses stood out the most smart, punishing, and endlessly replayable. I died more times than I can count, but every win felt earned. The story and characters didn't grab me, and a few systems felt more complicated than necessary, but the core action more than made up for it. By the end, Khazan proved itself as one of those rare games that truly rewards skill and patience, the kind of experience that leaves you satisfied with every hard-fought victory.
Thank you.
The Midnight Walk drew me in with its dark, handcrafted world and quiet, haunting atmosphere. Playing as the Burnt One, I explored a land trapped in eternal night, using small tools like matches, wardrobes, and careful listening to solve puzzles and stay alive. The mechanics are simple, but the game keeps twisting its rules in clever ways that kept me curious the whole time. Potboy became the most memorable part of my journey. Guiding him, protecting his fragile flame, and watching him trust me made the adventure surprisingly emotional. The characters, the small stories scattered around the world, and the stunning stop-motion style all stuck with me. By the time I reached the endings, I realized this was a game I'd keep thinking about long after it was over.
The dark itself is the key.
The Outer Worlds 2 felt like diving back into a wild space adventure, only bigger, funnier, and far more chaotic than before. I loved jumping between strange planets run by greedy corporations and making choices that actually changed how events unfolded. The new movement options, sliding, double jumping, and faster-paced combat made every fight feel energetic and stylish. With the expanded perks and flaws system, I could shape my character exactly how I wanted. By the end, it felt like a louder, crazier, and more action-packed evolution of everything I enjoyed in the first game.
And more.
Elden Ring grabbed my attention right away and didn't let go. Exploring the lands between as a tarnished always felt exciting because every direction led to something different. A hidden dungeon, a strange NPC, or a massive boss ready to flatten me. The combat sticks to the classic Souls feel, but gives me tons of freedom. Melee, magic, stealth, horseback fights, and all the ashes of war. Some areas completely destroyed me, but once I learned the patterns, every tough fight felt fair and rewarding. What stayed with me most was the sense of exploration. I could wander anywhere, take on challenges in my own order, and find strong weapons and spells just by staying curious. When it was over, I felt like I had experienced one of the most memorable open worlds ever, a game that made every discovery and every victory truly feel like my own.
Know you.
When I started God of War Ragnarök, it immediately felt like a deeper and heavier chapter in Kratos' story. Picking up years after the last game, I could see how much Atreus had grown, and the threat of the coming apocalypse stayed with me in every realm I visited. I enjoyed exploring huge, beautifully designed areas filled with clever puzzles, meaningful side quests, and enemies inspired by Norse mythology. The combat felt great to play. The Leviathan axe hits hard. The Blades of Chaos let me chain fast, brutal combos, and the new shields and runic attacks added more variety. The boss fights were massive and intense, but what stayed with me most was how the game mixed all that action with a heartfelt story about family and destiny.
Here comes another one! You won't get away!
Playing Metal Gear Solid Delta felt like experiencing the original all over again, just with smoother visuals and a cleaner look. It's basically Metal Gear Solid 3 rebuilt almost exactly as I remember it. The graphics are much sharper now, but I can still feel the older game underneath. The animations, the stiff movement, and the quirky enemy AI all return. The updated controls help a lot, and the arcadey stealth still hits the same way it did years ago. It's not a bold remake, and it doesn't try to modernize everything. But because I loved the original, this felt like a faithful and enjoyable return to one of my favorite stealth games.
To heal that rift and make the world whole again. To do this, we need strength.
Every part! I'll destroy it all!
Silent Hill F surprised me in the best way. I thought the new setting and focus on melee combat might feel too different from classic Silent Hill, but once I started playing, it pulled me in fast. Exploring 1960s Ebisugaoka as Hinako is tense from the very beginning. Every hallway, every room, and every creature keeps me on edge. The melee system takes a little time to learn, but once it clicked for me, every dodge and every strike felt intense in the right way. The creature designs are some of the most disturbing I've seen in the entire series, and the dark shrine sections are unforgettable. The atmosphere, the puzzles, and the storytelling all feel like true Silent Hill, just with a new and twisted direction. By the time I reached the end, I already knew I wanted to play through it again. Astro Bot honestly made me smile the entire time I played it. Every level feels like a tiny theme park, bursting with bright colors, playful animations, and clever ideas that surprise you the moment you step in. I loved how often the gameplay changed one moment. I'm using those frog-like gloves to launch myself across huge gaps, and the next I'm tiny, wandering through incredibly detailed toy-sized environments that feel alive with personality. The DualSense adds even more charm. The game is packed with hidden secrets, fun challenges, and tons of nostalgic PlayStation cameos that always made me stop and smile. Even without a big story driving everything, it delivers pure, joyful fun from start to finish, the kind of game that lifts your mood the moment you start playing. Playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 felt refreshing in a way most RPGs don't. I loved how grounded and historical everything was. The world feels incredibly detailed, believable, and packed with atmosphere. Every system has real depth, and the game lets my choices actually shape how people react to me and how situations play out. Even without having played the first game, I found the characters easy to connect with, and the dynamic between Henry and Hans gave the story a lot of personality. As I leveled up, completed side quests, and improved my gear, I appreciated how the game constantly rewarded patience, learning, and actual player skill instead of shortcuts. The world feels alive, the challenges feel fair, and the attention to historical accuracy makes every moment stand out. It's one of the most immersive medieval experiences I've played, and it impressed me from beginning to end.